Love is Blind, season 10. OHIO, OHIO. Listen, I love that for them. I went to college in the Midwest, so I understand just Midwest. I don't know if it's like football culture, but I love the pride. Okay, so let's talk about the reunion. Let's talk about the couples. I'm giggly in the beginning because we got so much to cover. This was by far my favorite season. Many people have a lot of criticisms about the Love is Blind franchise and the hosts, and I will say this makes for really good TV. But for me, as someone who is a lover girl, as someone who loves love and loves relationships and loves psychoanalyzing people, this was this was juicy. Okay. I just have to first give a shout out to Vic and Christine because healthy love does not make for good TV. And yet, I'm so glad that they made it, but I'm also so glad they weren't afraid to proclaim and declare their faith. You can tell a relationship with God at the foundation. It was almost like, whether you're a Christian or not, it was so very clear what it's not even an alignment of core values, but it's an alignment of faith. Two people who have done the work on themselves, have strong rooted beliefs, strong faith, coming together with the foundation not being of love, of lust, of can we procreate? Do you want kids? It's like there's something deeper when you have a trust, a shared trust and faith in God. Like you can tell how set apart they were as a couple. And I don't think it was a coincidence that they were sent to Malibu. I'm so glad they weren't a part of the drama of what happened in Mexico. And yeah, let's just go ahead and go through the couples because my goodness, it's a lot to cover. So let's start with Amber and Jordan because I think they were. So let me say this. I recorded myself, I'm not going to edit it in, but during the finale, I recorded myself guessing whether the couple would say yes or no, and I literally got every couple correct except Bree and Connor. I did not see them. I did not see Bree calling off the wedding before they made it to the altar. So we'll get to them in a second. But yeah, my analysis were correct. And even though Jordan and Amber made it, I like that Jordan admitted later on in a podcast interview with AD on What's the Reality. He said that just the pressure of the moment, seeing Emma, the daughter, staring at him from the front row, and he had about 20 minutes of standing up there by himself, just thinking about what to say. And when you're making a decision to people please or to make everyone else happy, it rarely ends well in the long term. And something that he also said in a follow up interview after the reunion is that when Amber stormed off, he was asked if he was surprised by her behavior. And he said, no, that's who she was behind the scenes. That's who she was in the months after they got married. And my goodness, that is toxic. That is toxic. I know there's, the trope of women being crazy and hormonal and moody and PMS, but Amber's behavior is beyond any of those labels. And I truly hope she seeks the help that she needs because I do think there is deeper anger management needed. And this is someone who was enrolled in anger management as a high school by force, not by choice, because I was a very angry kid. So I can see the flaring, the tension, the blow up, the she was fuming and it was so honestly it was embarrassing to watch that she had no redeeming qualities during the reunion. And even in the moment where she's laying it into Chris, and Chris deserved it. Trust me, he deserved every bit of the lashing. But that was still so embarrassing on her part because it showed she had no self restraint and self control. And I'm sure if anybody could have been that upset with Chris, it should have been Jess. And you could see how controlled Jess was. Like Jess was my favorite. Jess was my favorite. I think it's easy for her to be a fan favorite because she carries herself with such class and dignity. And when someone makes it clear that they're not choosing you, she's not begging. Like I really loved how many women chose themselves, even though that's not the point of the show. It's like you want them to work out. But unfortunately, and this is gonna probably always be the case, the candidates for women will always be higher caliber than the candidates for men. Oftentimes, men who are single, let's say after 30, after 40, choose my words. There are more quality women over 30 than there are quality men over 30. So you can imagine if there's a quality man who, good education, decent looking, whatever, great job, like they're going to be snatched up in a second. Women, on the other hand, of that same caliber or higher, can be a little choosier and pickier because they're less tolerant to deal with just anything. But, as a man, I feel like men can have it easier because, you know, oftentimes their role in a relationship is like just to be a decent person. Just be decent. The bar is the bar is where the bar is, y'all. But if a man is decent, if he's just not a jerk, like we're like, listen, sis, go for it. Yes. But for a woman, it's like, and so even bare minimum man and bare minimum woman, there are so much more high quality and high caliber bare minimum women out there. So it just is a mismatch of options. So even in Netflix's, I think it was their Instagram or their TikTok, they uploaded this is when the season first started, all of the candidates, their ages, and their careers. If you go bar for bar, the careers of the men and the careers of the women, just go down the line, you will see how overqualified the women are career wise. They've got jobs, like they've got full blown careers, physicians, technicians, nurses, like career women. And then the men, it's like sales rep, account executive, account director, vague titles that are kind of like also opening positions at any startup or finance corporation. So it just goes to show how much more seriously, I don't know, the women are just in life in general. That said, Jordan and Amber, it was an exception, even though Amber was a nurse and Amber, now that I think about it, the other Amber from another season, I think season one, Amber and Barnett. Oh yeah, and they didn't make the reunion because they are done with they want nothing to do with Love is Blind. And Lauren and Cam was there, but Lauren was at home with the baby. So I'm actually glad Lauren stayed home. I also don't think that the franchise has treated Lauren and Cam that well, even though they were like the first success story. Anyways, Jordan was such a lovable guy. I think everyone was like rooting for Jordan because when we think about just a quality human, is showing up, is reciprocating, is, decent enough. It's like at that level, some might say, they're not attracted to a larger man. That's fine. But I think Amber didn't have an issue with his size. And I think Amber was just, for the first time, she realized, oh, this is what a decent man, this is how a decent man should treat me. And so Amber came on as a man hater and was quickly surprised that Jordan wasn't in that archetype. So, yeah, I think Jordan also later said that Amber mostly talked about work in the pods. So it's almost like Amber was afraid to be vulnerable outside of talking about her daughter. So that in itself kind of showed that Amber had the wall up, whereas Jordan maybe was like trying to fish for more details, like, okay, tell me about yourself and your personality. And I think there were moments where I think Amber, she could have received kind of like the dumb blonde label because she had so many blonde moments. And this is not me calling her that, but just what the internet is saying. And I don't know if she was trying to play that card up or if it was just a really bad edit, but I thought there were multiple times where I was like, Amber, huh? But I think it's always going to be complex when you add someone with a kid. I really appreciated that most of the cast was over 30 as well. I think we're going to get a better show when you have the 30 to 40 range. I'm even open to 40 plus, but at least 30 because most of us don't know ourselves before then. Emma is an exception. Emma, I think, was 28 or 29, and she was on the more mature side. But I do believe dating shows are going to be so much more interesting when you have nuance, layer, and complexity of lived experience after 30. You have, I've never watched Love Island, but you have shows like that where you got a bunch of hot people in bikinis staying in one villa. It's hookup galore, I imagine. Like there are shows that can cater to, being hot and young and in your 20s. I think Love is Blind, if it's going to continue to grow and I think reach a demographic of people that believe in love and are rooting for love and want to appreciate the show for what it is, just having kind of an older group, so 30 plus. And you might say, oh, what do you mean older? 30 plus, 40 plus, I'm open to 50 plus as well. But I just think minimum age has to be 30. So when Amber stormed off, I felt really like embarrassed for her because it just was moment after moment where she was not redeeming herself. I was surprised that they made her come back. Some people will say later on that the contracts are quite ruthless. Like even if you want to, opt out or leave an episode early, like they force you to maybe stay in the hotel, and so you can't always dictate, the kind of, I don't know, the exit that you actually want to have. So yeah, it was quite embarrassing because I she didn't even get a chance to touch up her makeup. So you just saw it it just was not good. The fact that they sat them next to each other, I mean, obviously they had to because no one knew if they were still together or not prior to the reunion. And learning that Jordan is dating, he has a girlfriend. I'm not surprised. And he met this girl or this woman through a mutual friend at a party. So even again, and then many of the women who didn't make it to the altar, like it was very, many of them said that they were still single, but then any of the men that didn't make it to the altar, many of them said they were in relationships or like Devonte already engaged with a baby on the way. Tisk, tisk, tisk. What a shame. So the archetype of Jordan, originally I labeled him as someone who is just happy to be there. If you are dating a male archetype of someone who's just happy to be there and goes with the flow, they're only going to put up with so much. They're going to be really easygoing and you might feel like you can take advantage of them. But I think with Jordan, it became very clear that he's like, I'm not the one or the two. You're not going to talk to me anyhow. And I could see that Amber probably got really verbally and emotionally abusive, which is really sad. So if you are dating someone who has the male archetype of Jordan, happy to be there and just going with the flow, life of the party, everybody loves him. Don't take his needs for granted. And also don't be surprised if he comes at you with like boundaries, because I think Jordan didn't express or have boundaries in the beginning. And then later on, it became clear that it's like, I'm not putting up with this. Next couple. Let's talk about Brittany and Devonte because that edit, that finale episode was really, again, just there were so many times I shook my head at the camera, at the screen when Brittany was talking about how how secure she feels in the relationship and how she's 100% sure she's going to be his wife, and Devonte is 100% sure is her husband, and we're going to get married, it's just not today. And there were so like everyone saw the signs Devonte was so checked out. And the thing is, Brittany is a bombshell. Like super gorgeous, if not one of the probably the most gorgeous one in the cast, if not one of the most. And we're talking about beyond just appearance. She has the stereotypical voluptuous, curvy body. Like she is well endowed in all the places. And just so dainty and feminine, like a lot of men would be. lucky and excited to date someone like her. And I think with Devonte, when he, expressed that he's never dated a woman of color, like you could tell, like that was his biggest thing. Like he did not know how to, I don't even want to say handle, just be with her. And again, with a woman like her, with a body like hers, I'm sure Brittany is used to men like being all over her and like just drooling in her presence because she has a gorgeous body. And he would like hardly touch her. And I think for many women, physical touch can be a love language. And she expressed those needs up front. And he was like, well, I'm not going to touch you just because you asked me to, because now I feel like I'm doing it out of pressure. I'm like, sir, what? What kind of game is this? Like, I never liked Devonte from the jump, and I was just disgusted that she gave him that much time. uh, And he didn't deserve her. He really didn't. And I felt so bad. That moment where her dad, listen, Brittany, you got a solid father. What a man. What a man. My goodness. Some could say that the fathers of this season won. Ashley's dad, the lawyer, divorce lawyer. I remember rewatching that scene and I was like, how many minutes did this last? It felt like a 10-minute interrogation. I think it was like 6 minutes, but that was a terrifying scene. Hate that it had to be him. But yeah, Devonte and Brittany's dad, that was a really heartwarming moment of, you know, I don't want to see you get attacked. I don't like to see you hated. I hope you're well, but did you lie to me? Did you lie to me when you said this? We gave you five options, five ways to get out. You didn't take any of them. How dare you? It was so like, whew, we all felt it. And then for him to just admit, oh, by the way, I'm also engaged and I got a baby on the way. It was gross, but it goes to show that trash men will always be swept up before decent women because there are some people that are so desperate, and I'll say some women, unfortunately, that are so desperate to have a husband or to be married that they would take what's available or settle for lower quality, a lower quality man than they deserve just because someone is better than no one. And I think there's more, I mean, I think there's more of a movement happening where women are choosing themselves, but it was really sad to see, yeah, that Brittany couldn't walk away with her dignity. Like she had to be embarrassed like that. And I don't think there was anything wrong with buying the dress before you got on the show. I think it shows that you have faith and you're like believing the process will work. Like I don't think I, I do think she was excited to get married. Um, I think she would have gotten married to whoever she connected with. I don't know that she was in love with Devonte. I think she was in love with the idea of being married. I think that became pretty clear. But yeah, to for her to learn that he was married or engaged and had a baby on the way at the same time we did, that was pretty hard. And it was weird that Devonte and Alex were roommates in Arizona. We'll get to Alex, but that was a strange connection because I didn't really see them bonding too much in the lounge. So the male archetype of Devonte is checked out and avoidant. He doesn't like confrontation. He doesn't like to tell the truth. He almost like he doesn't want to be the bad guy, even though he knows that he is. And so he will just avoid any type of honesty and confrontation to just keep the peace for as long as humanly possible. And I really didn't like that he went to the concert with Bree, Priyanka, and Ashley. And we'll get to Bree in a second. Bree is not a girl's girl. Like there were so many questionable moments where I was like, Bree, you are in too many situations that question your integrity. I don't like it. But yeah, Devonte with three girls from the cast and none of them checking in with Brittany. I don't like it. I don't like sometimes you can't trust women sometimes because I don't know. I thought that was really shady on all three of the women's parts because I'm not traveling with a man. Like, what I'm even if it's just going to a concert, like, Yeah, too much history, but it goes to show there's a level of immaturity there and a lack of respect. So unfortunate. Um, let's talk about Alex and Ashley. That I know you don't choose me, and I'm not choosing you either. I must have said that line out loud like 10 times because I said, and then I replayed it so many times because it was such a power move, so unexpected, but that was worth the whole finale. And I was so excited for what would be said during the reunion. It unfortunately, I was hoping for, no, I wasn't. I don't know. Because the finale was so embarrassing, or that altar moment was literally two egos trying to out ego each other. Ashley is a beautiful chick, and I can imagine. I mean, who's to say the more beautiful you are, the more douchebags you attract? I don't know. But if you are a beautiful person, you will get a lot of attention. Who you choose to give attention back to is up to you. And if her dad said she's a bad picker, then maybe she's entertaining men that are just as attractive as she is. And so from the male side, if you're an attractive man, you don't have to work hard for much because women are drooling at the feet to be around you, to sleep with you, all the things. So I think Ashley and Alex have the same level of attraction, not to each other, we learned, but in the real world. They are both attractive human beings. And attractive people, it's almost like it's a competition for who can get the most attention and work the least to keep the relationship going. But I think during the finale, it was clear during the fireplace scene, Alex was, like, not invested, completely checked out, and it was embarrassing, actually. She was like, "Do you have any final questions for me?" He's like, "No, I'm confident." The amount of times he said he was confident, I was like, "Dude, shut up. You are not. You are." He's like a charlatan. You could tell he's, like, the charisma and the rehearsed lines, it's masking, any deep insecurities and any level of vulnerability, but he never really got there. So I forgot who said it. Amber was like, men will put their, penis in a sandwich. So it's not a matter of like, oh, well, they slept together and attractions there. It's like men will sleep with whatever. So I think once he got what he wanted and he saw how it was, he's like, well, like, I've had better. I don't know if I want this for life. It sucks because, yeah, Alex is a good looking man. Ashley is a good looking woman. And visually, they looked like they made sense. But, Alex said she wasn't his type. But I actually think there was a little bit more of a, Alex wanted to be a little bit more of a free spirit. He has a nomadic lifestyle. He didn't want to be tied down to Ohio. He definitely didn't want to live there. Ashley had a stable career there. I mean, she is not going to give it up for a man that she just met. And I think they both knew that. And those conversations around their future was always, it never ended well. And you could tell that Ashley would get frustrated, but she would bite her tongue and Alex would just speak his mind and then he would end it. So their communication style also felt really unhealthy. And yeah, during the reunion, it was interesting to see, like, Alex did have moments to redeem himself, and he just doubled down on his arrogance. Like, "No, this is it." And again, I get it. It's really hard to have your integrity questioned on national television and, the world is watching your story play out in real time, and it's been almost a year since the taping of that show. So it's like you also had a year to kind of like work on yourself and heal from this because it was a lot. He got rejected at the altar, but also it was done in a way where it was so violent. Like, I think Ashley's goal was to humiliate him. That's why she was so nervous. And I was also confused why they asked him first, because typically they'll ask the woman and then it's up to the man to kind of say yes or no. And we saw that play out with Chrissy and Mike, but we'll get to that. Or sorry, Emma and Mike. Yeah, I was so surprised at the altar. It doesn't matter what your answer is. I know you don't choose me, and I'm not choosing you either. Whew. You could tell that she said that with her whole chest, and his face, you know, confused, but yeah, she kept going, which was crazy. And I think Alex's mom was like, "You could have just said no." His family and friends are there, and you made it a point to humiliate him. And I think because Ashley felt humiliated the entire time leading up to the wedding, she was like, "I'm getting my lick back." And that she did. Crazy work. Yeah, Ashley, I mean, I don't think I expected maturity from either of them. You would hope that there would be a resolution, but I think they were both so petty and led with their egos. You're not going to get much out of that. So they continued to, have their moments of contention, and nothing got resolved. And yeah, it was just unfortunate because it just yeah, because they're going to still have moments in the future where they're going to probably be in the same room. And you hope at very least everyone can be cordial, because at the end of the day, you were engaged to this person. You did fall in love to a degree. And yeah, just really messy. I did think it was interesting that they sat Chris and Alex next to each other, almost like these are the two most hated men from the season. um yeah, so that was interesting. And so I think Alex's archetype, male archetype, is the charismatic playboy. So if you find yourself in a relationship with a charismatic playboy, you're either there for a good time, but not a long time. I don't see people like Alex settling down until he gets to a point where he meets his match. Someone that is a bigger traveler, better looking, more of a playgirl, I don't know. But until he meets his match, he's not going to be humbled by how he treats women because he's been able to get away with it. I also see that he's the kind of person that can probably go out on a weekend and have his choice at 5 type of hot girls and decide which one he wants to sleep with or talk to. So men like that, there's no incentive to really settle down because the lifestyle that they live is very free and easygoing, and them giving that up for stability is not a priority. So, yeah, is what it is. All right, next up we have Bree and Connor. Let me just say, I'm really glad they're still dating, even though Connor deserves better. And I'm really glad that Bree apologized for how she I don't wanna say how she sounded, who she was during the show. She would, like, talk him up and say, "I love how much you love me, but you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this." Let me just go into the male archetype of Connor, low self-esteem. This one is probably the most unfortunate one. When you're dating a man with low self-esteem, as the woman, you probably know, and it's very easy for you to either take advantage of them or to string them along until something better happens. And I feel like Connor is so emotionally invested, and he's never probably been chosen or loved to this degree. And even though Brie is not even, I mean, I was so annoyed when she was like, "I just want closure," and I wouldn't be, upset about a third meeting. I'm like, Chris is douche McDouchel. What flirtatious at the pool when they met. And, Bree was obviously visibly annoyed when she didn't get to have one-on-one time the first time they all saw each other. And she was like, "Well, this is so superficial and everyone's just like shots and I just wish there was more depth." And it's like, "No, you wish that your second choice would have chose you because you want to feel, I don't know, desired." But it's interesting because yeah, Bree is very alpha and Connor is more on the beta side, and I don't say that as a slight. I think it makes sense. A lot of alpha women choose beta men, and I hope beta isn't a negative stereotype. I just mean a man that's not needing to be so dominant because yeah, you don't have to be, and that's not your personality, and that's not why people love you. So Connor has a very loving posture and heart and personality, and I just wish he could have connected or matched with someone that would have appreciated him for him more. I do think that Emma and Connor would have made a slightly, I don't know if a better match. But one thing that stuck out to me about Connor, and this happened like twice. Oh my goodness, this was maybe one of my favorite parts of the show. See, this was like episode 1 or 2. Yeah, but he matches with Bree, and then he goes back to his corner. The doors close, and he looks directly to the camera, and he's like, "I effing love you guys." Like, that level of, like, "Y'all helped me find my wife," the gratitude. And then at the very end, the finale episode where they were broken up and he's sitting with it, and obviously there's tears and he's processing, he still is like, "Thank you guys for this. I appreciate it." Like, probably the only, not just man, but person in the entire season to thank the show for leading them to their fiance or their, uh husband or wife. So the gratitude, his heart posture is just one of like humility. And Breed absolutely does not deserve that. She's just, oh, he joked about how she wouldn't shut up, but I think, and it's true, she does talk a lot. But I wish Connor would have matched with someone who matched his level of gratefulness. I think Bree is She's out there. She's a lot, and not in a bad way, but, she clearly wants someone that's more domineering, and that's not Connor, and, you know, yes, his house is not impressive. It does give off frat boy energy, but it's also you're in the Midwest. So, after college, many of them, you maintain a little bit of that frat boy, I guess, posture or mentality. Yeah, and then Bree was caught up in just other situations where I don't feel like she represented the other women well. And then at the bar, when Chris is hitting on her, after the first slight at Connor, should have been gone. She stayed there way too long, entertaining his advances, entertaining what he had to say about Connor, asking, "Well, would you pick me? Well, what do you think about the two of us?" Disgusting. I don't know how Connor watched that episode and was like, "Yeah, I get it." Because that's who she, like, her character. Bree's character is questionable. She is not someone that I would trust around women or men. Like, I don't trust, she broke both girls' and guys' code. She doesn't follow any codes. She does what she wants to benefit her ego and her self-esteem and however she feels, and that is a dangerous type of person to befriend, let alone marry. So, yeah, I was not impressed by Bree, even though she gave off, joyful, lovable, happy-go-lucky, cheerful energy. She definitely was probably the most, I don't even know the word. It's not a good word, what I'm thinking of. So, yeah, the archetype for Connor is low self-esteem, and if you find yourself with a man that has really low self-esteem, number 1, I'll say this, words of affirmation is most men's love language. Across the board. Men don't get complimented the way women do, even if they're good looking or whatever, because being a man, it's like be strong, be a provider, and like suck it up. So, yes, as much as they are not doing well collectively, um, I've spoken to enough good men to know that they also don't get complimented much. So, the fact that Bree was so anti complimentary of Connor, and you could see how low his self-esteem is. It's like if you're with a man with low self-esteem, you wanna do your best to give them words of affirmation, and if you wanna see it through, support them as they grow. And this is something that I learned, I don't know, a few years ago, but if a man is not doing something that you want them to do, instead of criticizing, oh, actually, I remember now. My friend Chelsea Datari. Check out her YouTube channel. But instead of criticizing what the man does bad, compliment him on what he does well or what you hope to see him do. Like, for example, I don't know, random example, washing dishes. Like, oh, like let's say he hasn't washed dishes for 2 days and like that is his role. You've divided household chores and that's his thing. You can just say something like, "Oh, babe, I'm so grateful when you wash the dishes because it allows me to come into the kitchen and think about, what I can cook for us for lunch." You're complimenting how you feel when he does the thing versus criticizing him for not doing the thing. It's such a small tweak in our language, but men respond to that. Men respond to compliments and they also respond to knowing that their actions are connected to our well being or us feeling better about how we move through the home or the day. Men are problem solvers by nature. So if you would address it as like a problem that you hope he can fix or work on, then he'll respond to it. So I feel like there's a communication lapse there. Okay. um Last but not least. No, not last. Jess. Jess and Chris. I I was so proud of Nick Lachey. Male accountability is lacking. I I was like, this is needed. Nick was like, buddy, this is the least you could do is own up. Chris looked like he was on the verge of tears multiple times, and I wish he would have let himself cry because I think that would have given us a little bit of okay, he's a human. He his humanity is on display, and I think we would have given him more grace. But the fact that he had the most bare minimum apology, he didn't look remorseful, he looked embarrassed. Embarrassed is not regretful. Embarrassed is not apologetic. Embarrassed is just humiliated. And he deserved to feel humiliated because he was so humiliating to Jess multiple times, criticizing her body. And also, I really didn't like, I get it, it makes for good TV, but multiple times they left in how he talked about her in bed. And that's just really like, oh, sex was bad and oh, the sex was, oh, it was awful, it was the worst. I'm like, you don't, that's just so, it's just, yeah, I just felt really bad for Jess. And on the same breath, she had the most redeeming moment when, oh, I'm gonna butcher his name, Harisol. No, I'm not even gonna, Haramal, Haramal. What a beautiful, I feel like every strong woman in uh could like he said, Jess, you are everything. Oh, listen, I don't know if you sat through that scene without crying, get out of here. Like you have a rock for a heart because what? That moment, I just for Jess to be edified in that way after a season where she was just criticized and her image was slightly tarnished, I loved that she had that redemption arc. And I love that the bulk of her tears were saved for that moment. Like, even though she had every reason to break down in that, you know, discussion with Chris, which she couldn't even look at him, which I love that we had this first full circle moment. And what a gift to have a man speak life into a strong woman that way on a nationally televised show. I think men everywhere were like, "Ooh, I got to do better." Like it really, as a man, it doesn't take much to be good, to be a decent human. It sucks that we're at this inflection point where it feels like just good women are outpacing good men. And I just yeah, that was so heartwarming to watch, and I think everyone collectively just sighed because she deserved that moment so bad. And yeah, Chris, just what a shame. What an embarrassment. I truly hope he gets help, like several years of therapy. Um, And at the same time, I don't wish for a woman to treat him the way he treated Jess. Like, I don't wish his own behavior on him because it already seems like he has so many insecurities. People call it short man syndrome. Like, you can already tell he hates himself. You can't wish worse on someone who already doesn't like who they are. So I mean, that is going to be a journey that is layered and complex enough, but sucks. Like, he left with no friends. Both men and women cast members hated him. The the worst. I'm trying to think of who was worse than him. No, I think this is the first time because even the prior season with the guy with the weirdly weird mustache. um, yeah, I don't remember what that couple was, but yeah, no one has been as hated as Chris. So I just you've got some work to do, buddy. And I think, the archetype of someone like Chris is just incredibly, incredibly insecure and incredibly like there's so much self-hatred there. And so the only way to feel better about yourself is to talk down about someone else. And I like that they also called out the fact that after he saw Jess's home, he ghosted her for 2 days. Insecure. You see a woman's success and you're like, man, I can't compete with that. Gotta break this off. Like you could tell, like he has so much work to do. But yeah, that male archetype, run, run. Any man that's willing to put other men down and women in the process, my goodness, you have nothing. You don't need to be dating. You have nothing to offer anybody. Go get help. Go to therapy. Go sit with yourself. You have no business being in the dating scene. Last but not least, we have Emma and Mike. Ah, mm. I like that they were cordial. It seemed that things were, relatively mature. I also think that Emma was caught off guard by the fact that he had been dating someone. And when he said, 8 months, you saw her eyes get a little bit bigger. So sometimes I wish they would have those conversations privately so that people aren't caught off guard. It's a little bit embarrassing because then you think about the timeline. That means 4 months after they broke up or whenever they called off the engagement, he was already moving on. I found Mike, his male archetype felt flip floppy, like almost two-faced. There was so much confidence and bravado with his parents, like, "No, I trust this, I trust her, I know she'll make the right decision." And then also being like, "The only way I'm gonna say yes is if I know that you can have kids." And you know that she doesn't have that certainty. And even Emma, it sounded like she changed her answer in that moment. It didn't seem like she wanted to say, "I do," but eventually it came out, and I think everyone was kind of confused because it sounded like she gave an excuse, and then she was like, "Well, anyways, I do." And I really I was shocked because I wanted Emma to choose herself. She clearly does not want kids, and I've been in that situation where I'm like, "I have a good man, but he wants kids. Am I willing to have his babies?" Do you know how much that would have messed up my life? Sorry, I say the word mess up, changed my life, but messed up what I wanted for myself. There is no sugarcoating how kids change your life. And has the whole episode, the whole season has been about her doubt. And you saw how emotional it makes her as well. Like, you cannot force someone who is having an emotional reaction to the idea of kids to bear your children. And I don't know, sometimes I don't know if it's them trying to force a storyline to make it work for the franchise, or if they just think that there's no good people out there. I was like, Mike, you're not bad looking. There are millions of women that want kids and hundreds of thousands probably in your city state area that you could also meet that would match your future desires more. And I know a lot about I know a lot of what makes relationships work is timing, availability, alignment, all this type of stuff. So they had that connection. And I think the investment of time and energy is what people don't want to do over. So it's like at this point, I have given you so much of me. And many people will say after Love is Blind that that person knows more about them than anyone else in the world, which goes to show 50 hours of talking to one person is a lot of time to divulge your secrets, your fears, your doubts, your dreams. So it's a lot that they've shared with each other. And at that level and stage of vulnerability, do you want to have to do that over again? For many people, no. So I found their wedding to be a little bit awkward. I know Alex's mom was super, not Alex, Mike. I know Mike's mom was super happy. You could tell she was not sold. Both of Mike's parents were like, this chick you just met and you don't she doesn't know she wants a kid. What are y'all doing? I know they were relieved at his answer. And you could tell he was also expecting her to say no. So when she said yes, he was like, oh, shoot, I gotta look like the bad guy. I think Mike was hoping to be rejected, not the one doing the rejecting, which kind of changed the dynamic of their love story. But yeah, during the reunion, I like that they stayed cordial. They were sat next to each other, so it seemed like, things were okay. But again, when he mentioned that he was dating someone, I was like, man, you could tell that Emma learned that for the first time because her face was like, how many months? Ooh. And I think the reunion overall did a better job of not spending too much time on past couples updates. Like, okay, let me say this. Out of 10 seasons, I think I've watched 7. Trying to think of the ones that I didn't finish or just didn't even tune into. I wanna say I watched, yeah, maybe 7 out of 10. So every time I always get so annoyed. I'm like, "Why is it that every reunion special, they focus on the couples that I did not watch their season?" It always feels like I'm so disconnected from the couple because I never know who it actually is. So, I don't know, some couples stand out more than others, and the reality is, like, if a couple has another kid or a couple moves to a different home or I don't know, something, if they weren't a interesting couple, I hate to say that, if they weren't interesting to follow, us getting an update on their life is also not gonna be interesting. But couples that were interesting were, like, obviously Cam and Lauren because they are actual content creators, they've been continuing to grow their personal brands and share their life online, so they're naturally just a little bit more interesting than others, and yeah, I don't know, I just wish that the updates were maybe like, kept on a screen, like, these are the couples that had babies in the last year, and then you just show all the couples on the screen at once versus, having, like, dedicated 3-minute segments because then it just slows the momentum down, and for the people that are only tuning in for the first time, they're probably confused, like, "Who are these people and why are we" you know? And, I still remember the last one where the whole engagement ring thing where, they shot for it, like, "Okay, whoever makes a basket gets to keep the engagement ring." That was so embarrassing. But yeah, shout out to Nick and Lachey, Nick and Vanessa. I am sure it is not easy to follow so many couples and to host these and to read the feedback and all that kinda stuff, so I thought they did a great job. This was by far my favorite season. By far my favorite reunion episode, and yeah, man, what a freaking crazy, crazy. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. I don't even what I am appreciating and what I hope happens in future seasons because listen, I got another 10 seasons in me. I could follow this show until the end of time. Like I think it's going to be one of the few shows that make it to 20, 30, 40 cycles. Even though arguably some seasons are clearly better than others, yes, but I think they're doing a better job of vetting who's here to be famous versus who's here to find love. Who's here to find love, yeah. Um, for all the people that didn't, like, advance with relationships, yeah, I wish we got to maybe know more of their story, so maybe they could have gotten some type of edit where, I don't know, they got some airtime. Because the reality is if they didn't make it with a couple or with a person on the show, maybe the little 1-minute highlight reel that they get, someone in the world discovers them and shoots their shot. So I think there's an opportunity for the people that don't advance to still get a little bit more airtime because you see a room of like 20 to 30 women and you're like, "Oh, wonder which ones," and then 20 to 30 men, and you don't really hear anything of their story or any of their dates if they don't advance. So I know that they can only shoot so many episodes. So yeah, really, really interesting. But yeah, I would say my favorite character from this season from the women's side is Jess. I thought Jess was a very classy, just honest, real chick. And my favorite person on the guy's side, I would say it's a tie between it's tough, Jordan and Connor. Connor was very easygoing, but I think Jordan was like the most lovable. Yeah, so the fact that, Jordan is in another relationship and Connor is still, pursuing things with Bree. Yeah, they're as long as they're happy, that's what matters most. And I think a lot of the major criticism that people also have about Love is Blind is the lack of diversity. And of course, this is going to depend on the cities that they're casting in. I think there was a Denver season, Colorado season. So of course it's going to skew more on the white side. But I thought they did a great job of, at least the cast members, even if they didn't advance, there's a little bit more diversity because I think the story arcs are more interesting when it's not like quintessential white people. I don't know how else to say that, but it's just we see enough white people love stories in movies, in shows. They have dominated media for decades, centuries, years, So it's really cool to see women of color, people of color get more airtime, but also be a bigger part of the cast. And I don't know how this casting process goes. A lot of people say that they were referred or recommended. Some people are sought out on Instagram. So I just hope that they still continue to be intentional about, you know, because I don't know, like it adds more flavor and also more complexity to the dynamic of the show. I also know that, people of color are less likely to do stuff like this. So, or at least the families are less likely to be on board. I did think it was interesting that Vic's family met the bride, Chrissy, on the wedding day. Like that felt crazy to me. But I wonder if they lived out of country and so they had to fly in. I thought that was interesting because he has Caribbean roots. But yeah, they are I think Nick called it nauseatingly perfect. Just truly, like, just good for them, honestly. And whether they weren't being filmed when they had disagreements or they just truly didn't have disagreements, you know, one could say, is that healthy? I don't know. But I just think that they have such a strong godly foundation that they can talk through just about anything. And I see Chrissy being also an amazing mother. Like she just has a beautiful maternal nature to her. I just see them, yeah, I see them, they're almost like the the modern version of Cameron and Lauren. Like everyone was rooting for Cameron and Lauren, and that interracial dynamic can sometimes uh, complicate things, in all honesty. And it was definitely a bigger part of the storyline for season one, because the dad and, they are in the South and he's like, listen, here's what it's like. Like what's your family like? So I think yeah, Midwest culture probably and slightly more northern territory. You have less of a toxic history. I mean, it's still US history, but the South was the worst of it. So yeah, I want Chrissy and Vic to go the distance. I really they just gave me so much like joy seeing them on camera together. And one of my favorite scenes is when she gave him a box on their wedding day, and on the cover, I don't know if y'all caught it, but it said for tonight dot dot dot. And then he opened the box slightly and then he closed it right away and he was like, I can't tell y'all what's in there. And I imagine it's like just some freaky stuff. And so that also goes to show, I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't bump uglies. If they were waiting until marriage to get physical, I would not be surprised. They didn't talk anything about their physical chemistry or their physical connection, but I truly would not be surprised if that was also reserved for after marriage. And this isn't about purity culture. This is about they truly prioritize what mattered most. When you remove the lust and the physical chemistry and everything else, you get to focus on the emotional, heartfelt, real issues. Like, do we mesh? What is our lifestyles like? What are your expectations? What do you want in a wife? What do you want in a husband? I think they got to have more of those honest conversations as early as possible. And Vic kept alluding to how Chrissy accepted his past. And I always wondered, he must have said it off camera, but I wondered what exactly his past entailed because it sounded like he overcame some dark stuff and Chrissy was very forgiving of it. So I just was curious as to whether the cameras missed it or he just never shared it while they were filming. So that was it was interesting, but Vic seems like a really solid, grounded, calm dude, and Chrissy just seems like very happy-go-lucky, easygoing, nurturing, warm energy. They belong together. And I was just really happy that their families, fit. And I think Vic shared was a social media update or like a photo of, all of Vic's family and Chrissy squeezed in there in the middle. And I'm like, they look so happy. And that's ultimately what you want in love. You know, it's not about colors, it's not about race, background. There's so many more important things that matter when it comes to betting on love and taking a chance on a long-term relationship. So, I mean, I'm really grateful for all the ways relationship lessons are reflected back to me because I get to have just deeper appreciation for, I remember when that was an issue, or oh, I remember when we had to work through that. It's nice to see people willing to be vulnerable about their ish so that you could take the lessons and reflect. But yeah, throughout these male archetypes, I hope whether you're someone that is in the dating scene or in the dating world or you've given up on love, that you can approach love and marriage if you desire with a level of levity, playfulness, and groundedness that's required. Because no longer can we just kind of if you're starting a business, if you're wanting to get in shape, you don't half-ass your efforts. You say, okay, I'm ready to commit my whole ass into this. I understand what's needed in this arena. I understand that this is a big life decision. I understand many people say that who you choose as a partner is the greatest indicator of your long-term happiness. You don't want to take that lightly. And many people also, even though stats say 50% of marriages end in divorce, people don't want a divorce. People want to give it their all. People want to be team one and done. So I get it. And it's going to require probably a level of vulnerability and effort that you might not want to make, might not want to give. But I encourage you, love is such a meaningful, worthwhile pursuit. Go for it, chase it, pursue it, do what you must. But I promise you, on the other side, you're gonna be like, I'm glad I put myself out there. I'm glad I signed up for that dating app. I'm glad I did this thing and that thing. And if you want more conversations around dating, I recorded a few videos in the past, so I'll link to them at the end of this video. But if you don't know, my name is Glow, and I make videos every single day to remind you of one simple truth. You deserve what you desire. So, whatever it is, go get it. And I'll see y'all tomorrow and on the next season of Love is Blind. Bye.